It's time to start paying attention to the altcoin cycle. I think people are about to break generational poverty, and what I'm about to show you right now, you're probably underestimating what's about to happen, seriously, because the percentages in altcoins are unlike anything you've probably ever seen in your entire life unless you've experienced an altcoin cycle before. If you're completely new to this market, I promise you 100,000% you are not prepared, because what's going to happen is insane. When I mean every altcoin is going to go up, I mean every altcoin is going to go up. And what I want to talk about in this video specifically is not the altcoin cycle, not the altcoin super cycle, but I specifically want to talk about the altcoin power cycle. There's a specific cycle within the altcoin cycle where things get ballistic. And I want to try to predict specific dates. We've talked about this before. We're going to attack it from a different perspective. Again, predictions are just numbers on some type of model. So don't look at the actual dates, look at my actual research. And if you actually research, well, this is the channel for you, because all I do is provide evidence behind the decisions I make, and then I tell people about my decisions. That's the gist here. Don't get emotions involved. Try not to, at least try not to, because FOMO is real and depression is real. So protect your mind. Protect your mind, because what's about to happen in altcoins is about to be crazy. When I mean overexcitement, I mean overexcitement, exuberance, and you might spend money you don't have. So don't fall into this category. Man, last cycle was crazy. If you guys are watching this video and you were with me last cycle, kudos to you. You're still here, because it went insane. Like, I mean, the craziest moments of my life I experienced through these big altcoin cycles. I mean, my entire life changed. Like, when I first started crypto, I invested, I believe, $7,000 or like 7,600 or something like that. I dumped my entire bank account into Ethereum at about $7 Ethereum. And that first moment, I believe a lot of you are going to experience, because shortly after, it did 127x. So that money went like crazy. And I lost money and I got emotional, and then people around me started looking crazy. I even remember when I told people in my office, I was like, hey, like I invested my entire bank account into this coin called Ethereum. They thought I was crazy. So for you, if you're watching this video, don't talk about it, be about it. Don't tell your friends, you know, let them know that you're doing it, give a slight hint, but don't get emotionally attached to if they reject you, because what we're doing here is different. When I mean it's different, it's different. People are not going to understand. Actually, people not understanding is a sign that you are in the right place. So if you're watching this video, you are a select few. You are the person that decided to take the risk that nobody's willing to take, and I love it. I love it. I love going into unknown territory, uncharted territory, doing things nobody else has done before. And as you can see right here from the Uniswap search trend, nobody is in the market. We are at all-time low when it comes to awareness. There's no one here right now. If you thought that altcoins going up in recent history were the altcoin cycle, boy, you have been deceived. We have not experienced anything yet. And what I want to show you is exact predictions. I want to show you exact dates in this video. I want to show you when the masses of people are going to come. And also, I am very hot, so I'm taking off this jacket because it's about to get real. Just look at the crypto and Bitcoin search terms. So what we're looking at here is Google Trends. So Google Trends is basically how many times people type in a search term into Google. So like, for example, when you're going and looking for dog food, you type in dog food near me, right? That is a search, right? You're searching it on Google. And see, Google is the biggest search algorithm in the world. So you can see the search trends, right? And as you can see right here, we are at all-time low. So we have not, I repeat, I want to be clear, we have not experienced the all-out crazy bull cycle. We have not. When it comes, it's going to be crazy. I actually want to show you what it looks like. So these are basically charts that show the top 10 by percentage increase. Let me be clear, percentage increase, not by market cap, right? The market cap websites don't mean money made, right? So for example, if I go over here to coinmarketcap.com, Bitcoin will not make you the most money, but it comes up #1 for everybody to see. Ethereum will not make you the most money. You might get a 3 to 5x with Ethereum. You might get a double on Bitcoin. Think about it. If Bitcoin doubles, that's $140,000 Bitcoin. I even doubt that you'll probably even get a double this cycle on Bitcoin. So I'm talking about specifically percentage increase. This is my website. I've essentially mapped these out and I showed it in comparison to Bitcoin. And you can see that last altcoin cycle, we had some pretty crazy, price increases. This is a 5,000% price increase. That's insane. 10,000% price increase. And in the same period of time, Bitcoin only did a 425% price increase. That's insane to me. We have a 20,000% price increase, right? This is a real thing. This is just killing all the doubt for people that don't think that the altcoin cycle is real. It's real. As you can see right here, when Bitcoin tops out, you see how it tops out? All the liquidity flies into altcoins, and the percentage returns on altcoins are significantly bigger than anything else we've ever seen, I think, in reality. That's my personal perspective. As you see right here, Bitcoin tops out, it starts falling in price, and we see these altcoins skyrocketing. A lot of liquidity will move into altcoins. Look, again, Bitcoin tops out almost the exact same day. We see altcoins skyrocketing, 28,000%. That's like turning $1,000 into $282,000 in 364 days. So this is why I focus on altcoin season. For all the traditional investors, a lot of people like to buy and hold. I don't do this because these same altcoins will also drop by 98%. So in a 1 year period, 1 to 2 year period, we have a 364-day time horizon here. So the altcoin season, in my personal opinion, lasts about a year. There's like the overarching altcoin season, which we're going to be talking about in this video. I'm going to break it down more for you. But there's the overarching altcoin season, and then we have the power cycle, which is within the overarching altcoin season. And that power cycle, I believe, lasts anywhere from 3 to 9 months, depending on what you're looking at. And that's when overexuberance, overexcitement happens and things just get really crazy. So there's an overarching positive altcoin cycle, everything benefits, all altcoins go up. But then there's a specific part where you see things like this. And this is where all of my focus and attention has been going to. Regardless of what the market's doing now, I don't care about 50 or 100% increases. I care about 4,000% increases. I care about 900,000% increase. I care about 22,000% increases. There's a wise concept I learned. Don't be penny wise and dollar opposite. A lot of people are making decisions based off of a 2x or a 3x. I even see people saying, I'll be happy with a 10x. Why would you be happy with a 10x when the overall potential of the market is 22,000%, right? Now, 152,000%. What you guys don't understand that this didn't happen early on in the Bitcoin cycle. This happened towards the tail end, meaning we have time and it's going to come very soon. Don't be happy with something small. To me, that's a spirit of poverty. I go big. I never settle for less because I know the confidence I have in God. I know God wants abundance for my life. So why would I settle for something smaller? That to me is insecurity. A lot of people invest with emotions and they invest with childhood trauma. They're investing with insecurity. So they're like, I want to just play it safe. But in reality, if you look at the stats and numbers, there's nothing safe in this market. Ethereum drops 80, 90% every single cycle. Bitcoin is going to drop 70%. How is a 70% drop safe? Don't invest because you're not worth it. You have to invest with confidence. So my confidence in my life, and this is not pride, this is confidence, I believe is 150. I'm going for this. That's how I'm going to shift my investment principles. So if I do get, let's say, a 5,000% return on my portfolio, or whatever the case is, that is more than a traditional hedge fund investing for the next 10 years. Hedge funds, the greatest, portfolio management companies in the world, they're getting less than 50% a year. Are you catching what I'm saying? This is how crypto works. Everyone I've known in crypto that have made big money, that have way more money than me, 10 million, 20 million, $50 million, they usually say the same thing. Usually they put a significant amount of money, like a couple grand, 5 grand, 10 grand, 3 grand, into a coin that got them 100x. And that's what changed their life. Everyone I know that does this in a significant way, when I look at like the biggest players in the game, that's where their money is made. It's not made on a whole bunch of small things. It's made on these big wins. And it's so weird because you don't see it in other markets. So it's so unconventional. You don't see it in Forex or day trading. You don't see any of this. So it's easy to get caught into this false humility, which is like, I'm going to be humble and I'm going to try to go for a 2x when the entire market is built in a significantly different way. You're leaving yourself, in my opinion, you're leaving yourself such a small room for error. If you make a 2x, that's a 200% return, versus a person that makes a 20,000% return. Think about the difference there. The person that made a 20,000% return is much more likely to leave with profit versus someone that makes a 200% return, right? They're much more likely to sell. You need a big margin of error in a risky asset class. We're looking for high risk, high reward. These are asymmetrical bets. That's how you win in this market. I can't tell you about other markets, but in this market, this is how you win. So I want to take that out of your head. My goal here is to help you. I've been doing this for 8 years. And what I'm telling you right now is a crypto-specific strategy. We're not talking about another strategy taken from some experience in another market and trying to bring it into this market to try to make it fit. That's not what I'm talking about. Every dollar I have ever made in my life has come from cryptocurrency. Everything I know about entrepreneurship investing has been crafted in this market. So take your limiting beliefs and previous thoughts and unlearn them. The programming that they have given you since you were younger about finance, unlearn this programming. Unlearn it, because it's going to hold you back from making the most significant investment in your life literally in the next couple of months. This is my last big rally call to all of my audience. Please, you need to change. You need to take this serious because, again, this is real. It's real. And you guys keep playing around and lollygagging with even $30 an hour, thinking that making $30 to $50 an hour is somehow going to change your life. You got a couple months, bro, to experience the biggest altcoin cycle in existence. If you want to keep playing around, you keep playing around. I'm not going to play around. I'm going to take this serious. I'm going to lock in and I'm going to see it for what it is and let go of all of my previous experience and look at it for what it is. Stop investing with emotion. I know it's a little rant. I had to go off on a rant because we really have to hit that home. Let's talk about dates. Let's talk about predictions. So this chart that we're looking at here is the Bitcoin, okay? Bitcoin dominance chart. So this dominance chart basically shows Bitcoin dominance over the market. So this is not price. So this is not Bitcoin's price. Think about it. Now at the bottom here, this is Bitcoin's price. This pink line is Bitcoin's price, but above here basically just shows Bitcoin's dominance over the entire market. Meaning at this moment right here, when Bitcoin dominance dropped, this right here, this means that altcoins started taking dominance from Bitcoin, meaning this is basically the altcoin cycle. So we're looking for periods like this. This is what we want to focus on, is like what happened here, because this is when altcoins started flying, right? So for example, let me show you February 2017. This was the first altcoin cycle, and I'm actually going to pull open this thing right here, which is the historical snapshot of altcoins. So we could just like open a couple tabs. It started gaining momentum in like March and stuff like that. So we're looking in 2017 for the actual altcoin cycle. I'm just going to open up a couple tabs. It gets really crazy. So if we open these tabs up right here, we can kind of look at the 7-day percentage increase, and you can see that it gets pretty insane, right? So this is 7-day percentage increase during the altcoin cycle. This is what it looks like, guys. Not one altcoin, but like the majority of the altcoins do significantly well. Again, like this is not normal. Like you don't really find this in any other market. And I'm trying to explain it from different perspectives. I'm trying to actually get you to experience it before we actually experience it, right? And so what you're seeing here is big percentage returns, right? Look at this, 747%. And this is ranked 51 by market cap size. Usually the top 50 is not going up by 700% like that. That's pretty insane to me, right? Look at this, top 200, top 200, top 200, top 100, 432%. It's not one altcoin. This is the beauty about crypto that people don't understand, is that it's not one altcoin. You're going to do well. If you're in crypto and you're pivoted and you stay focused and you just don't get weird and start selling and getting emotional, you're going to experience some of this for a fact. It depends on how much you experience. Like, you know, obviously you want to go for the 5,000% increase, not just the 100% increase, but hopefully you understand and you get the point. that this is a real thing. And this is when the altcoin seasons start to happen, right? So if we come back over here to the actual altcoin cycle, which is what we've been showing right here, I want to figure out like how long did it take from this blue line, which is the Bitcoin halving, because I believe that the Bitcoin halving catalyzes everything. And I'm going to try to explain it to you with a visual so you understand. But how long did it take from the Bitcoin halving specifically to the altcoin cycle? Let's look at the days. And I want to give you the prediction. Then I want to explain the power cycle. So right here, we have 266 days. And then you can see right here, Bitcoin dominance just went crazy down. Like it fell a lot, right? 266 days, Bitcoin dominance drops. Now let's look at the next one, right? So we look over here, we have 238 days and it dropped. And then we had the crazy altcoin cycle right there. So all I did is two types of predictions. Again, when it's a prediction, you have to understand that nobody understands all of this perfectly, right? Think about it for a second. All I'm doing is I'm looking at history. It's pretty consistent. We have 266 days here. We have 238 days. That's about, what, 40 or 50 days off. That's pretty consistent, in my opinion. It's really consistent. And in both situations, that actually happened towards the beginning of the year. So I think this is significant. I think it's something worth looking at. And I also think that it could be used to make an actual prediction. So all I did was two different predictions. The first one is I looked at the diminishing returns of the dates, right? How much did it diminish by? So 266, 238, and then it diminished. I basically used ChatGPT to figure out exactly what would be the third number. And the third number would be about 205. So if you look at these predictions right here, specifically, I have two different dates. The first date is right here, and I know you can't probably see that. I'm gonna move it up. So 203, 205, whatever the case is, this is the end of November. So if we continue down this way, altcoin season could start based off of this, you know, based off of it being faster and faster. Maybe the altcoin season comes faster this cycle. We're looking at the end of November, which is obviously very interesting because we have the presidential elections on November 5th, right? November is going to be a big month, right? Very, very big month. So when we talk about the power cycle and the altcoin cycle, and I'm saying, hey, it's happening very soon, I mean it. Like, we have potentially President Trump, which owns a coin and an NFT project, or I think his son owns the coin, but he's definitely part of it and talking about it. A coin and an NFT project as the president, a potential president. He was a previous president of the United States. Come on, put two and two, that's insane, right? And at the same time, if we look at the altcoin season history, it's lining up with November, and I like to give a range, right? So I'm thinking end of November, and then if we average this two numbers out, right, the 238 and right here, the 266. If we average those two numbers out, we're looking at beginning of January. So end of November, beginning of January. Personally, from all of my research, and we'll be revealing more in new videos and all these things, I personally believe closer to January is when we're actually going to experience the altcoin cycle, when things are about to really start happening. So we're talking about, guys, 2 months, 2-3 months. It's going to get crazy. We've been preparing for a long period of time. We've been researching altcoins, fundamental analysis, putting in the hard work, and it's about to pay off. Now, again, don't be the guy that's like, Alex, your predictions are wrong. Obviously, no one can predict the exact day. But if you just look at why and how I'm doing it, this is very important. Now, first things first, I want to talk about the altcoin cycle theory. And then I'm going to jump into the characteristics of an altcoin cycle, how they actually play out so we can allocate our capital in the right places when it comes to altcoins. All right, so this is the actual theory. So what I believe is that the Federal Reserve essentially controls all of the liquidity in general. So if you look at the Federal Reserve, the history behind the Federal Reserve, they essentially control the printing and the vacuuming of money out of the system. So they either put money into the system and inject liquidity, or they take the money away. That's what the Federal Reserve does. And they do it to USD, which happens to be the world reserve currency, meaning that every other currency, you know, Japan, China, Europe, every other currency is denominated in USD, and denominated just means compared to USD. This is where, for example, you see Euro/USD. That's what that means, is that it's denominated or valued in USD. This is what a world reserve currency is. Now, I'm not going to go into the history of finance. You should study the Bretton Woods Agreement and how the United States essentially came into a dominance over the world and all of these things. But long story short, the Federal Reserve controls the mechanism of printing and vacuuming over the most significant world reserve currency, which therefore trickles down into every financial instrument in the planet. That's what I believe. And this is why I study the Federal Reserve very significantly. Now, if you look into history, they typically have a cycle anywhere from 5 years to 20 years. Their cycles are a little bit different. They're human-made, meaning that they just make decisions. Like humans will make a decision. They'll be like, hey, we're going to print money. They just make decisions. So there's no consistency to it. But that essentially controls everything. Now, if you ask me where we are at right now in the Federal Reserve cycle, I've made so many videos that have detailed this significantly. But if you ask me straightforward, I believe we're right about here. I believe there's going to be a steep fall, and then we're going to start right back into the new Federal Reserve cycle for like the next 5 to 10 years or something like that, right? I believe we're right here, and this is why I essentially sold my crypto, and I'm going to be buying back in again within those time frames. Very specific, guys. If you like the clarity, I hope you appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel. Very specifically, I got out of all of my positions, and my goal is to get right back in before the end of the year, right? Within the time horizon of the end of November, beginning of January, to experience the altcoin cycle. So whatever cryptocurrency does now, I mean, I think Bitcoin's up a 20, 30% or something, or 10%. It's really irrelevant. And I think you guys should understand that, because what I'm going for is the 500,000%, right? And I also don't want to risk, especially with my capital, a significant fall of 60 to 70% that happens with these Federal Reserve cycles. And again, I have so much more detail in other videos you guys could reference. That's not the topic today. The topic today is the altcoin cycle. But yes, the Federal Reserve cycle is controlling everything. Now, we have a second cycle, which is the Bitcoin halving cycle. You should know this. Bitcoin has a mechanism built into it. Every 4 years or so, it halves, meaning the amount of coins that are coming out of the system through mining gets cut in half. For example, let's say that you're mining gold. You literally have a pickaxe in a system, and let's say you have a lot of people with pickaxes, and you're mining gold. They don't use that anymore. They obviously use machines. You get the point. You're mining gold, and let's say, for example, you pull out, I don't know, 1 ton of gold a month. Let's say you're mining, and there's a ton a month, right? And then that get cut in half. Now you get a half a ton a month. You just lost half of your production. The same thing is automatically programmed in Bitcoin. Every 4 years, the miners get literally half of the issuance of Bitcoin. It automatically slashes in half. This is the Bitcoin halving. And then from there, what happens is we have scarcity. Scarcity gets injected into everybody, and they're like, oh my gosh, Bitcoin is actually finite. Finite means there's only 21 million Bitcoin in existence, and everybody starts freaking out, starts buying Bitcoin, and this runs us into the Bitcoin halving cycle that everybody talks about. The scarcity drives adoption for Bitcoin. And we had the last Bitcoin halving in April, and it drove all this recent new adoption with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies that you guys have been experiencing. So we have the big Federal Reserve cycle, and then we have the Bitcoin halving cycle, which happens every 4 years or so. So that you can see 2 cycles within the Federal Reserve cycle. And people don't understand this, but the Bitcoin halving is about 4 years. It's not based off time. And we have the big Federal Reserve cycle. Now, within the Bitcoin halving cycle, what usually happens is that the excitement for Bitcoin turns into excitement for altcoins, because people start realizing that altcoins have more opportunity. It has more price increase, it does more, and people generally, whether you believe in that or not, people do get excited over altcoins, and they start buying altcoins and investing into them and making a whole bunch of money. Now, that should be known by most people in crypto if you have experience. What most people don't know is that there's specific types of cycles within the overarching cycle. And this is called the altcoin narrative cycles, meaning there's specific narratives. For example, AI would do significantly well within the altcoin cycle. It would do exceptionally well in comparison to all the altcoins. So there'd be a whole bunch of altcoins doing very well. Maybe they're going up 40, 50, 100% on a 7-day time horizon. And then out of nowhere, you'll see one specific narrative, let's say AI, that would be going up thousands of percentages. So the goal here is to get into a narrative, right? Get into that narrative and then cycle your money from narrative to narrative within the altcoin cycle. And that's what we're trying to do. Now, that is the characteristics of these cycles in the market. So the goal here is to have all stars aligning in one direction. You want the Federal Reserve going up, you want the Bitcoin halving cycle up, and you want the altcoin cycle going up at the same time, and then you want to strategically place your capital within the correct narrative that is actually popping off at the time. And this is how you win. This is what I meant by this is a very crypto-specific strategy. You do not find this anywhere else. You will not find something like this in the stock market. And that's what I want to provide to you guys today. Let's dive into some more characteristics of the altcoin cycle. Now, like I explained before, there's kind of two different types of altcoin cycles. There's like the general altcoin cycle, and then there's something that I call the power cycle, which is a little bit different. So the general altcoin cycle, I would say, is this entire drop. That's like the overarching thing. Bitcoin dominance drops, altcoins start benefiting from the liquidity. But if you noticed, you know, that there's a common thought in crypto where it's like Bitcoin's liquidity, like I just said, moves into altcoins. Now, but how does that happen, right? Like generally, like how does that look? And if we look right here, I try to compare Bitcoin's price. So right here, we have the exact top of Bitcoin. Now, if we look at the exact top of Bitcoin, it happened around this period. Look at how steep this fall is, right? This is Bitcoin dominance dropping like a lot. That's like straight down. That's like a free fall of Bitcoin dominance dropping. Meaning right here, this is, in my opinion, the power cycle. This is like the last moment where the altcoins start getting really, really crazy. And if you look at this period of time, that's only 36 days. That's only a month, which is very interesting because if we look at this, for example, you guys don't see it directly, but from when the coin started taking off to the peak, it was only 198 days. There were some coins that only 107 days. Look, from when the coin started taking off to the peak, only 107 days. These big coins, from when it started actually going parabolic to the top, it was such a small period of time. It was like literally 3 months. And so originally when I was doing this research, and obviously I get better and better, I was like, okay, the altcoin cycle only lasts like 3 months. It's not really true. The altcoin cycle technically lasts about a year. If we look right here, look at this period of time. So and I actually put it, look, 288 days for pretty much, no, I'm sorry, 315 days from when Bitcoin dominance starts dropping to the actual bottom of Bitcoin dominance. So the overarching altcoin cycle in general is like about a year, and that's consistent, right? So if we look at the other one, let's look at it about here, right? We look at, you know, specifically dates from when we started dropping to when we started reversing back up. We have about a year, and you could say that this is the bottom over here, but like this was a lot of sideways action. So I would say like right about here might be the altcoin. So the overarching altcoin cycle is about a year. But this power cycle is like a small time horizon because look at the difference in the price structure. If we look at the Bitcoin dominance, not price structure, but if we look at Bitcoin dominance, there's like kind of like a free fall, but like a sideways action. Now, these are pretty steep falls, but it's not as aggressive of what you see right here. Look at how aggressive this fall is. This is a straight down fall. This is like really like aggressive. This is sideways. This is like it gets a little aggressive right here, and then it goes sideways. But this is like the last kind of crazy free fall, right? And this is where altcoins, I believe, started doing very well. And so this is that major event that everybody talks about where Bitcoin's price, look at the Bitcoin's price, tops out. We have a final top, and then we have this big free fall, and you can see the consistency over here as well. This is what I call the power cycle. And what's very interesting is that we have a lot of manipulation around these time periods. We'll talk about that in future videos. I do something called timeline price analysis where I essentially simulate the past through price. I look at the price of something and I simulate the events that happen. So it's almost like you can experience exactly what happened. Like, so for example, right here, this is when Tesla accepted Bitcoin, which is ironically right around where the power cycle started. So it gets really interesting, and I'm not gonna go into extreme detail, but manipulation is real in this market. So long story short, same thing happened here. We have kind of like some sideways action, like we have the steep fall, and it's not really super aggressive. But then around here, we have a extremely deep fall. Now, what's consistent about this power cycle is that we have the Bitcoin top somewhere in the middle. So from my perspective, it's very interesting in the perspective of like, yeah, this is where all the money's made. But it's also very interesting in the perspective that maybe usually we have a Bitcoin top halfway through the power cycle. So halfway through the power cycle, there's overexcitement. People are just investing everything they have in altcoins. It gets ridiculous. These altcoins are going hundreds of thousand percentages, crazy, like all of this excitement. That is a signal to me to sell because we have Bitcoin topping out. So as soon as Bitcoin tops out, altcoins start getting just absurd and it moves into power cycle. To me, that's when a clock in my head starts ticking of when I'm gonna get out of the market completely. I believe in that period of time, and let's look at the actual dates for the power cycle. This power cycle only lasted 49 days. So when we see Bitcoin topping out, when we see altcoins going stupid, we have a month. And I believe that's the end of the market, just to help you guys out a little bit. Now, in this case, we did have this second cycle here of Bitcoin popping off, but look at the altcoins. They were very sideways, and they weren't as lucrative as this power cycle. And we have something very consistent here. Look, Bitcoin topped out. It was the end of the market. And altcoins kept running up for a little bit after. It was like a lagging period. This is why when you see on that original, altcoin cycle chart, you see that I had a lagging period. You have the Bitcoin cycle, and then like altcoins kind of lagged shortly behind. Like it was like kind of like the same cycle, but altcoins did well a little bit after, right? It was like about a month after. And you can see that with Ethereum's top as well. If you look at Bitcoin's top and Ethereum's top and compare it, you'll see that Ethereum topped out second and then ended. So this is really consistent. Again, characteristics of an altcoin cycle. So what everybody says on the internet is true, but again, wisdom is the important part. There's context to situations, right? There's 3 different types of ways you can consume information. I always tell people this, one of the most powerful lessons I ever learned. There's knowledge, and knowledge basically means that you know there's an altcoin cycle. So you have the knowledge of something. It's more memory based, right? So if someone gives you a definition of a word and you memorize the definition like in school, that's knowledge. Then you have the second part of information, which is understanding. You truly comprehend it to where you remember it. You don't need to memorize the actual words of the definition. You can explain it verbally because you understand it. And then there's wisdom. And wisdom is the application of your knowledge and understanding into something tangible that truly gets you value in reality. Meaning, you actually make money off of the information you're consuming through this video. That's wisdom. So the wisdom that I'm getting out of this specifically is that we have this big investment opportunity, but we have a bigger investment opportunity called the power cycle. And typically when the power cycle starts, it's going to end in about 30 days. And the wisdom right there shows, hey, it's time to get out of the market when this power cycle starts. When we start seeing altcoins steeply fall like that, Bitcoin dominance drops like that aggressive. And at the same time, Bitcoin's topping out, we got a time period of like 15 to 30 days to start selling all of our cryptocurrency and exiting the market. So I thought this was very interesting to explain to you guys. So if we look at what's going on right now specifically, we have no type of altcoin cycle at all, like zero. Bitcoin dominance has been increasing, and I've heard other people on the internet that have a lot of credibility basically saying when Bitcoin dominance gets about 60%, which we're coming up on 60%, this says plus 39%, but the scale is different. Right now we're at about 59% Bitcoin dominance. Once we get to about 60%, let me see if I could switch this. Yeah, there we go. We're at 58.8%. Once we get about 60%, people are saying that it's going to reverse. I believe that. We're coming up right now into this zone. I kind of put a zone out of resistance, but like you could specifically, we had someone in my group that actually pointed out something really important. Like right here is when we had that steep fall. So you could say that that 60% zone is really actually like important. That's where we could see the significant fall. And if we look over here, something around that area happened as well with the Bitcoin, dominance dropping. So from a technical analysis perspective, 60% is what I'm looking at, and that's coming very, very soon. So again, everything's lining up. We have like literally 1 to 2 months for the altcoin cycle to start. And yeah, this thing is about to get crazy. It's going to get really, really real. So look at the 2 time horizons. We have 2 different scenarios. You see the actual point of resistance, and then you actually have the real time horizons. Let's pull open the brush. I think we're going to see something like this. Somewhere in the middle, it's going to drop. And when that happens, we're going to see altcoins fly. Bitcoin will continue to go up for a couple of months. And then when Bitcoin tops out, we're going to experience the power cycle. And that's where we see these absurd, like really crazy returns. Like, for example, look at Gala Games for example. Towards the end, there's a gaming protocol. Towards the end, like look at right here. Literally when Bitcoin ended, that's when it started taking off. Look at the 611,000% return. 111,000% return. Now, in future videos, what I want to talk about is the specific types of narratives. We talked about this, with the chart. I showed you guys that there's different narratives, like gaming is a narrative, AI is a narrative. The question is, which narratives work in specific parts of the cycle? Which ones work early on and which ones work towards the tail end? From my theory, it's basically the thing that's easier to understand usually works towards the end, because most people are in the market like they're fresh, brand new. Like at the top here of Bitcoin's price, unfortunately, the way these markets work, the most excitement is at the exact top of the price. So when the price is at the exact top, that's when the new people come in, and they usually will invest in things that they really know. Like for example, blockchain and gaming, pretty straightforward. Blockchain, NFT, like NFTs, very easy to understand. Like things that are easy to understand typically do better towards the tail end during the power cycle. During the power cycle, that's when things like that take off. During the beginning altcoin cycle, I believe it's more big brain narratives like DeFi, infrastructure, RWA. That's the theory. We're going to prove that in future videos. If you like the quality of this content, hit like. If you don't, leave some constructive criticism. Subscribe for more video updates. And like I always say, if you don't get with it, you will get left behind. Catch you guys later. Thank you for watching. Peace out.